Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and today we're going to do video 4. Wow, is it already video 4 in the series? Of our 2D platforming game. In this video, we're going to talk about the relationships between the character and the objects in the game. I want to make sure that our player can pick up these spirits of the forest, and I also want to make sure that the player can die when he hits the spikes, and I want the player to go into the next area once we hit the end if we've collected all the orbs. So I'm going to do that in this video. First, we need to go back to our player script. So let's open that guy up. And we've already done a bunch here because we have all of our movement and everything else, but we need to start handling our collisions. And it's easiest to do these inside of the player script because we want to check to see what our player is colliding with. We're going to use a new kind of method today called onTriggerExit, but I'll get to that when we get there. First, let's talk about our onTriggerEnter. Now, what I want for this first part is, let's go back to Unity so I can explain a little bit. If you remember these spikes were set up to behave so that they would grow if the player got too close, and they'd shrink if the player got a little bit too far away. And if you landed on them or you touched them, then you died and the level started over. So the way I've set up this behavior and the way we're going to program this is I have this trigger, this big circle collider around our spikes, and that is set to a trigger. And what this is this is going to be kind of the range. So like if the player runs into this trigger, then we want these spikes to grow. And if the player runs out of this trigger, that's when we're going to use our onTriggerExit. Then we want the animation to play in reverse. We want the animation to start over, or actually go backward. And if we look at our animations here, we can see that okay, so let's go here. This is what the spike looks like to begin with. And then, actually it's, right there. And then as the animation goes through, the spike grows, and that box collider is growing with it. That is the box collider that is not a trigger, but that's going to check to see if our player touched that spike. So that's how these spikes are working. It's kind of a complicated game object, but the more advanced game development you get into, the more complicated game objects you'll find. And this is one that has multiple colliders doing different things because we need to set its behavior in different ways. All right, so let's actually program this thing. So the first thing I need is a void on trigger enter 2D. And I'm going to call a collider 2D. I'm going to call this other. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to check to see if other.name equals spikes, because my spikes names are all spikes. I have 4 different spikes in the level. They're all named spikes. So we're going to check them by name. I'm going to set other.get component. So I want to get a component on the other object, which in this case is the spikes. And I want to get the animator. And set bool. It's going to be in range. And that's going to be set to true. So just like with the player, I use the animator. I use the animator here, let's open this up, to set up an animation state between retracting and impaling. Retract is when it's fully in the ground. Impale is when it's fully stretched out, ready to kill the player. And there's only one Boolean I needed for that, and I call it in range. Oh, like my wallpaper. So that's there. Let's go back. So if we walk into that trigger, then it's going to be in range. The other thing we have to do is void on, and you know what? Actually, it's almost identically the same as this, so I'm just going to copy and paste. But instead of onTriggerEnter, it's going to be onTriggerExit. exit. And instead of true, it's going to be false. It's really that simple. That's how easy it is to create these interactions. I'm going to save the script and go back into my game and test it out. Okay, go to scene and play. And grab my controller here. All right. Okay, so now I'm far enough away, and if you remember, that trigger was roughly about here. So when I walk into this area, these spikes should grow. And it does. Look at that. My spikes grew up and they said, hey, come here, I want to stab you. Now if I back up, then the spikes go away. And that's exactly what we want. All right, so this is working perfectly. Beautiful. Okay, but now we have these spikes. We still don't die whenever we run into them. That we can do right now. Let's go here and go void on collision enter 2D, because that other box collider, or that other collider on my spikes object, that's not a trigger. That's set up as a box collider. And that is going to be collider 2D other. And inside of here, we want to do if other.name. No, we'll do other.game game object.name equals spikes. Then we will, gamb. I still spelled it with a B. Why am I doing that? Maybe it's because it's Sunday and I'm tired and cranky. I'm not cranky. I'm actually in a good mood because I'm programming. Making games is fun. All right. Sorry about that cheesy dork moment there for a second. All right. We're going to call scene manager dot load scene, and it's going to be main. Now my scene manager thing is getting mad at me because a scene manager doesn't exist because we haven't created a reference to it up here using Unity engine scene management. So now that should actually work. Beautiful. So all we're doing here is we're just reloading the scene that we're in if we die. Let's test out that functionality to make sure it works. Nope. Yeah, there we go. And buffering. Perfect. All right. Grab my controller. All right, and my spikes are growing, and let's jump on it. Oh no, Jacques, it's not working. Why is it not working? Let's find out. Okay. I love troubleshooting in the middle of making a movie, in the middle of making a video. On collision, enter. Oh, because I typed collider here, it's supposed to be collision. Collision. There we go, on collision 2D. So that's the other difference between triggers and colliders. In colliders, it needs to be called collision. And up here, anyway, just that's an easy mistake to make. I'm not going to beat myself up about it too much. But this is why we want to test often. If we write something new into our code, we want to test it out right away to see if there are any small, hey, there we go, and it worked. To see if there are any small errors that are going to cause us problems. Now I'm going to go to my next. Beautiful. Okay, so the best thing is, since we have 4 of these spikes, we already have the scripts attached to the spikes. So everything should still work for the whole level. So all my spikes should work just starting off. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is we want to actually end the game. So if I show up here at the very end here and I have all the orbs collected, I should be able to go to the next level. So we want to set up that functionality next. And we're going to do that by doing some stuff in our player script. And we're also going to do that by doing some stuff in a new script called collect. So let's talk about what do we want to do here? Yeah, let's set up some of the stuff in our player. Let's set up some of the stuff in our player script first. So we need a new variable, and this variable is a new kind of variable. It's a public variable. We know that. We've done that before. But it's also a static variable. And static essentially just means that this variable can be used and accessed by other scripts in our project. So the static variable can be used outside of this, this project. So we're going to have an orb count variable, and that orb count needs to be set to something. Now I don't want to just set it up here because I want that orb count to restart every time we play the game, play this level. So that's why we use a start method. Start method's great for that. And I will set orb count to be 0. Okay, perfect. So we have orb count 0. Let's see, is there anything else we need to do in here? Oh yeah, we do need to handle if... oh yeah, let's go down here and go to our on trigger enter. And let's do if other.name equals end trigger. Then we want scene manager.load scene. And we want to load the end scene. Now, this is going to load anytime, or this is going to happen anytime we run into that end trigger. But we don't want it to happen unless we've collected all of the orbs. So I'm going to say and orb count equals 8. So in this script here, we're going to check to see if orb count equals 8, and we're setting it to 0. You'll notice in this script there's no place for us to change orb count. Well, that's because we're going to change orb count in our collect script. Now, like I said before with the player script, that orb count is a static variable, which means we can modify that variable in this script here because we set it as static. So let's talk about how to do that real quickly. This won't take long at all. So basically what we need to do is we need to, in this script, we're gonna handle all of the collisions and collection and updating our user interface and everything else. So before I move on, actually, let's do this. Using Unity engine.ui, because we are going to update some UI elements in this game. Because remember, or in this script, remember whenever we collect these orbs, we want them to go away, but we also want our user interface to update and show that we've collected the orb. So we're going to do some user interface interactions here too. Okay, this is a very, very small script. All we need are 2 variables, public game object orb, not org, orb. And this is going to be the orb that we're, you know, I'll explain in a minute. This is the orb that we're updating on our UI. And then the other thing we need is a audio source. And we're going to call this collect. Now, actually, let's make this a little easier. Let's call this UI orb so that it's a little bit easier to understand what that is. Okay, so audio source collect. What an audio source does is it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's just a sound effect. Now, if we go over here to Unity and I go to my main camera, I have this empty game object called sound FX. And inside I have a couple things. One, I have my background music, which is sad music. It's playing as soon as the game opens and it's looping whenever it's done. And then I have this collect sound effect, which does not play when the game opens and it does not loop. It just plays once. I want to use this collect, this sound effect, here in this script. I want to tell the script when I collect a new thing, I want my collect sound effect to play. So let's actually do that. Let's go void. And all of this is going to be handled through an on trigger enter 2D. Collider 2D other. Perfect. Okay, so all we have to do is if other.game object.name equals player. So if the player runs into the whatever this thing is attached to, this.game object.set active false. Set active just basically means I'm going to check this box next to it. So let's say we had this red orb, or let's try this purple orb because we can actually see it. So we have this purple orb. Set active just turns that off if we set it to false. If we want it back on, we would set it to true. That's all we're doing there. Pretty easy stuff. And then we want to take this UI orb and we want to set active to true. And all we're doing there is, if we look at our UI, let's look at our canvas. We have, and let me do this here. So we have this holder, which is just a darker version and more see-through version of one of the orb sprites. This holder, and a child of that holder is this aqua object. Its set active is false by default, but if we turn it true, then it just literally turns it on in the UI. That's all we're doing. We're just turning it on and off based, with the code. Okay. Let's go back here. Oh, come on. There we go. Set that active to true. Then we want our sound effect to play. So collect.play. Okay. Then we want to update that orb count in our player script. So player.orb count, and we want it to increase by 1. That's easy. That's it. That's the entire collect script. That's the whole thing. Let's save all this. And let's go back to our game and let's go to our spirits here. Now our spirits are all going to have this red orb, or they're all going to have these things here, these references we need to make. So let's do these in order. First of all, I can grab all of them. Come on, I can grab all of them, all 8 of them. And I can change this collect sound effect, or I can attach this collect sound effect, because it's going to be the same sound effect for each of these. So that we can do as a group, but everyone else needs to be tied in individually. So the red orb, let's find the red UI element. The purple orb, let's find the purple UI element. The pink orb, let's find the pink UI element. The gold orb, and I called it yellow. So yeah, that's gross. That's not the best, but whatever. It's the yellow UI element. Orange orb is the orange UI right there. Blue orb, blue right there. Aqua orb is aqua here, and green orb is green here. Now this should actually work. If it doesn't, then we've made a mistake somewhere, but this should actually work now. Hey, look, I collected the orb, it played my sound effect, and it updated my UI so that I can see that I've now collected that orb. And that worked as well, and so did that, and that, and that. And I can tie different sound effects to each of these. We're just being lazy and using one. Oh. But if you wanted to, you could use new sound effects for each of these. Okay, now I've collected all the orbs. Now if I walk into that tree, I should be able to go to the next scene. And I win. I did. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Is it even worth making another video to handle that next one? No. Let's do this real fast. Okay. So let's go to my scripts here. Where are they? Got a lot of stuff in this project. Boom, boom. Okay, let's go to the project folder. All right, the last script we need to worry about is this end game script, and it's going to be tied to that end game scene. All this does is it literally just has us, it's checking for whether or not we're pushing escape or tab. Now, I know I'm playing with a controller, but we can set this to anything we want, but this is literally just 2 if statements. So let's very quickly create this code. So using Unity engine dot scene management, all right, because we want to be able to move from scene to scene. Oh, what's going on there? Okay. So inside my update, all I want to do is if input dot get key down, and if the key code is tab, then why is that mad? Oh, because I'm not inside of a method. Let's put this inside the update method, shall we? I was trying to go quickly and I ended up making a dumb mistake. All right. All right, there we go. Although this probably should be tabbed in by 1. There we go. Perfect. So now it should work. All right, so if we push tab, then I want to scene manager dot load scene, and the scene we're going to load is main. And if we push, instead of tab, if we push escape, then we want to application dot quit. You know what? And we're probably going to want to be able to, oh, come on. We're probably going to want to be able to do that in the game as well. So I'm going to copy that and put that in my player script also. We'll put this down here in my update method so that I can quit the game while I'm playing. Okay, so that is our entire endgame script. Like I said, just 2 if statements. File, save. All right. At this point, the entire game works exactly the way it's supposed to. The whole project is done. There's literally nothing else for us to do. The game works exactly the way it's supposed to. So, you know, I can go through and collect everything. All right, and oh, the last one. It was the last one. Sometimes whenever you're playtesting, you'll realize you made a part just a little bit too difficult and you need to change it. I'm actually going to cheat right now, and I'm going to go to my spikes. Nope, where are my spikes? I believe that's, no, let's go here. I'm going to delete that spikes, or I'm just going to turn him off. I'm going to turn him off. I just want to test that end scene. All right, he's too tough. He's defeated me. All right. And watch me die by some other spike. That would be hilarious. All right, so that works. Now I can push tab to play again. Beautiful. So my game is working exactly the way I want him to, or her to, if we want to be sensitive to gender pronouns. But yeah, the game is working. Everything's looking good. And honestly, I have a pretty good solid base. I could build as many levels for this game as I want. And all it takes is just me adding in, just creating a new scene and then designing a new configuration of the level. That's one of the best parts about building games in this way, is that we can scale them up pretty drastically once we get the core mechanics of everything working properly. But anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to shut up and let you work on this final project for the term. Next term, we're going to get into some more complicated projects, some more complex projects, but even more fun programming. But I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to go get a drink of water and kick my feet up and watch some TV. So I will see you next time. Thank you for paying attention, and bye.